What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Gem Men Collectibles. I'm here with a top 10 Absolute Edition Whales video. I did a top 10 Omnibus video a couple weeks back and seemed to gain some traction. I figured we'd do the Absolute version. The Absolute format is really a DC Comics format where they have a hard slipcase with an oversized Absolute inside. They're taller than Omnibus and they tend to be not as thick. I think it's the best format of hardcovers that's around. So these are the top 10 whales, meaning the top 10 hardest to find out of print, can be the most expensive. I've read about half of these. Half of them, I don't know anything about the story. I figure I'll get to them one day. But we'll start with the Absolute Dark Knight, the Batman book by Frank Miller. Take it out of the slip case here. So you got your slip cover. And you have a dust jacket. You got Batman on the front, Robin on the back, Absolute Dark Knight on the inside. Take off the dust jacket. Then you got some of the more memorable artwork from the actual issues. So this one I have read. I think most people have read this storyline. It's been adapted into an animated movie, and Batman vs. Superman was loosely based off of some of this stuff. But it's definitely an iconic storyline. I'm happy to have the Absolute. To me, it's the best format to have a story in, so this one was a no-brainer. So it's out of print, meaning you can only get it on eBay or Amazon or some kind of third party. If you see it at a local comic shop, scoop it up. So these are not in any particular order. I'm just kind of doing them random. But there you go. Number one, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight. The next book is the Green Lantern Absolute Blackest Night, which is a really cool run that, I don't know, did it bring a lot of people back to Green Lantern? It's in the middle of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, and it's collected in the three omnibuses, or omnibi. It's in the second one. So when I was reading the Jeff Johns Green Lantern omnibus, when it got to the Blackest Night part, I put down the omnibus and read it in the Absolute. So Jeff Johns' run in the first volume introduced that color spectrum and the different lanterns, the red lanterns, the yellow lanterns, the pink lanterns, sapphire, and all that. When you got to the Blackest Night, they introduced the black lanterns and it resurrected a bunch of dead heroes, and it was definitely a cool storyline. So it was a whale, and then it was back available on in-stock trades, and I think it's a whale again. Either way, it's a must-have. I mean, the art is crazy good. Jeff Johns' writing is awesome. And it's just a fun read, man. I liked his whole run. Lots of colors. Got a lot of emotion. The zombie vibe is tight. You gotta love zombie Black Lanterns, you know? I actually dropped this book, man, when I was reading it. I messed up the corner right here. Kind of pissed off about that. Anyway, if you see this at your local shop, make sure to grab it. Maybe it'll pop up one day on in-stock trades again. I doubt it. But definitely a must-have. All right. Next one, Whale Status. Mine's kind of beat up. This is JLA versus Avengers. Got George Perez art. I'm not familiar with this run at all, man. It comes with 2 books inside. One of them is the main story, and then you have like an art book. I gotta read this one day. So Busick and Perez. A lot of these omnibus absolutes sometimes have two or more books inside the slipcase, like because they'll be thin. You know, the original run of this book is probably not more than a couple of issues. So this is just a leather bound book. This is before the amalgam, right? JLA versus Wonder Woman versus Hercules right there. Batman and Cap. So a nice little mashup. Out of print book. I don't know if they'll ever reprint this. You got to be careful with buying whales. I would not suggest going out on eBay and spending $300 or $400 on a book, because sometimes these things get reprints, man. So the Infinite Crisis Omnibus was selling for $400, and now they just announced a reprint. So in the absolute world, or the omnibus world, first print, second print, it doesn't matter. People just want the book. So it's not more collectible to have, a first print of an omnibus. If it's a whale, you might as well just wait. So this looks like it's a compendium. They just talk about the series and the art and everything. We got to get around to reading this. Some sketch work. Anyway, that's Avengers vs. JLA. Who wins in a fight? I think you got to go JLA. As much of a Marvel fan that I am, he ain't beating Superman. All right, so here is a whale. This is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I watched the movie back in the day with Sean Connery. Never read the comics. This is Volume 1. It's a whale. Volume 2 is readily available, and then they have League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the Black Dossier. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's not a whale either. Only Volume 1's a whale, and it also comes with 2 books inside. I have not read this comic. So these are just the scripts in this book from Alan Moore, who's the writer. These are the scripts. I'm not really a big script reading guy. I don't know. I think you gotta really love the book to be into that. So then this is the absolute edition of Volume 1 of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Looks pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I don't know how loosely based off of this the movie was, if it was word for word, if it was, like the Hellboy treatment. But, if you haven't seen that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie, they had like, it's kind of like you had your Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You had, I don't even forget. I forget what the other people were. You had the werewolf guy. So it's kind of like a monsters themed thing. This is another one that I'm not familiar with. This is Absolute Promethea. There's 3 volumes of it. Volume 1 is the only one that's whale status. So when I was first collecting absolutes, I'm a completionist, so I was going to go after every one of them anyway. But the guy at my local comic shop was praising Promethea, man. He was like, yeah, man, it's a dope book. It's like a strong female lead. She's kind of like a Wonder Woman. But, not just one person is Promethea. It could be multiple women through time or something like that. So I was like, hey, you had me sold at fucking strong female lead. So I got it. I flipped through it before. The art looks good. I just have so much of a backlog, man, to get to these books. So Promethea is one I have not got to yet. Got some nudity there. But man, I heard good things about it. I'm happy to have the 3 volumes in my collection. And one day I'll get around to reading it. Oh shit. The next book is I pulled out volume 1. Volume 1 is not the whale of this series. It's the Boys Deluxe Editions by Garth Ennis. So they're not. It's not called an absolute, but it's an absolute format. This is volume 1. I don't think it's a whale. Volumes 3 and 5 out of 6 are the ones that are out of print and fetch a lot of money. I read these 6 books back to back. I couldn't put it down. I loved it. I like Garth Ennis' style. He's very raunchy. It's funny. And the premise of this book, it's a universe where they have like superheroes, and they have like your JLA kind of team, your Superman kind of figure, your X-Men kind of team. And it's almost like a Watchmen premise. Like, who watches the Watchmen? Well, there's like this little government agency of superpowered people who are not heroes. They're just regular guys who don't really like heroes, and they have to kind of put them in check every now and then. So the heroes in this book have comic books in the book that portray them as these heroes. And yeah, they come through and save the day, but in real life, there'll be a bunch of casualties, or they'll be in some kind of sex scandal, and then they got to cover up their image with, you know, PR and in the comic books that they're in. So it's kind of a cool, like a behind the scenes, what if heroes were real kind of thing, and what if they were assholes? That's kind of the best way to put it. Awesome read. If you like kind of fun stuff like that. There's kind of some emotional stuff in there too, man. I mean, but for the most, it's like a raunchy kind of funny book with a good, like, what if scenario. You know what I mean? What if heroes were real and they were assholes? So I'd recommend it if you're into that type of shit. Volumes 3 and 5 are the hard ones to find. If you see them at your shop, scoop them up. This is Absolute Top 10 by Alan Moore. This one I'm not familiar with. I've heard a lot of good things. I found the Absolute at my shop, so I picked it up. You know, it's out of print. I'm not sure if it's, you know, going for that crazy amount of prices online. I mean, probably is, knowing how eBay goes. But nice thick book. I have no idea of this, what's going on with this story either. No idea at all. I'm sure people are going to hit me in the comments and praise it, because, you know, people tend to really like this book. I don't think I've ever even cracked this. Maybe once, because the shrink wrap is off. But the art looks good. You gotta love Alan Moore. I hear good things about it. Let's see some artwork inside. Absolute Top 10. Hey, how fitting is it for the Absolute Top 10 Absolute Whales video, right? So, I don't know enough about it to talk about it, so we'll keep it moving. The next book on our list, sad to say, not really familiar with this one either. So I've had it sold to me, the premise, right? Planetary, Absolute Planetary. There are 2 volumes for the Absolutes, and there's an omnibus. You could pick up the omnibus, I'm sure, for cheap. Volume 1 is the only one out of the Absolutes that are a whale. I know it's a DC book, and from what I understood, it has something to do with, I don't want to get this wrong. The way I put it, I figured it has something to do with all the different characters within the DC universe, and I don't know how it ties together, but it's supposed to be like a really like a mind-blowing kind of thing. I don't know. Who writes this? Well, I want to feel like it's almost like a Grant Morrison type of writing to it, where it's like a kind of a makes you think kind of thing. Oh, Warren Ellis. So Warren Ellis book. See, is that Swamp Thing in there? See, I think it's something to do with this dude, and it connects like all the fucking DC universe. Constantine, looks like that's Constantine. Here's like a gut explosion panel. I don't know, I hear great things about Planetary. Like, people rant and rave about it. I just haven't read it yet. Once I've read it, maybe I'll go back and redeem myself on some of these books that I'm not familiar with, you know? But yeah, if you want it just for the story, the omnibus is probably the way to go. I just wanted to have the absolute to me is the best version format of a story. So I double dipped, man. I had the omnibus, and then I found these, I think volume 1 and 2 for like a crazy good deal on the CGC forums of all places. So I said, fuck it, I'll grab it. So, and I knew it was a whale. I was like, you know what? Might as well. Well, that didn't work out. All right, anyway, keeping it moving. Next book, Absolute Danger Girl by J. Scott Campbell. So, I remember seeing these back in the day in that whole Image 90s Extreme. Is this Image? I guess it's DC. But I remember seeing it. It always reminded me like of an Image book. So he always draws, females. He kind of over-sexualizes them a little bit. There's a story and a sketchbook inside. I've never read this. I mean, I'm familiar with J. Scott Campbell for his work on Spider-Man. This is a whale of a book, though, man. I think I picked it up on Amazon for cheap, man, like below cover. So that's the front. Spine in the back. I figured if anything, this book would be easy on the eyes. Nice leather-bound book. Here's some J. Scott Campbell goodness. Yeah, see, that's his thing. If you like good-looking females, J. Scott Campbell might be for you. So Danger Girl, people love Danger Girl, man. I just never read any of it. So it comes with, what does it cover? I don't even know what issues. Does it even say? Danger Girl 1 through 7? Is it only 7 issues? It might be. Anyway. So J. Scott Campbell. Everything in here, in my mind, I'll eventually read it one day. Now, will I really get to it? I don't know. Here's a sketchbook. Very thin. And, as you can imagine, it's got J. Scott Campbell sketches. Danger Girl stuff. Pretty cool. Anyway, that's that. Last but not least is the Spawn Deluxe Edition Volume 1. Again, it's an Image book, so it's not really an absolute, but it's the same format. I love these books, man. I grew up as a kid in the 90s. Spawn was my favorite thing. When I would go into the comic book shops and look at the issues, the Spawn covers always stood out. I love the McFarlane artwork and the Capullo artwork as well. This is a whale, hell of a whale, man. And Volume 2 is a whale also. There's 4 volumes. 3 and 4 I think you can get for a good price. But for sure, 1 and 2 are whales. I used to have Spawn, the single issues, like issues 1 through 242. I had all of the Curse of Spawn, all the miniseries and everything. I actually sold them on eBay, and that's how I started getting into CGC books. I bought my first Hulk 181 actually with that money, probably 2013, probably 2013, man. Anyway, probably one of my favorites, man. I hope they continue to do these deluxe editions for the rest of the Spawn books, so we can keep that run going. I've read the Spawn run, the first runs a couple of times. I used to have to trade paperbacks back in the day. Anyway, those are the top 10 absolute whales. I do want to give 2 honorable mentions. They're not whales yet because you can still buy them. I'm pretty sure they're still on in-stock trades. But Preachers, Volume 1 and 2 is probably the best put together absolute ever. The craftsmanship on the books are awesome, man. So this is also your boy Garth Ennis. There's a third volume solicited to come out. That's my first honorable mention. Get them now, man, before they do become whales. The second honorable mention is, this is probably the best craftsmanship in an absolute, and Preacher would be second. I don't know, they might be tied for first. But the Sandman Absolutes, there's 5 volumes and an Absolute Death, which is like a spinoff, and like a prequel Absolute that's been solicited. But the craftsmanship on these books are just awesome. It's well worth the price tag for also great stories. But that's about it, man. Those were my top 10, no particular order, not based on story, just availability of the books. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in, and catch y'all next time. Peace.